We had been drinking, and then we got into a fight, and he went to jail.
Oh.
I didn't want him to really go to jail. I didn't want nothing to happen to him because I love him, and he's sexy.
Are you drinking now?
For real, Jerry?
I did try to pay him, and he sent it right back to me because he wanted something in writing, but I wasn't assigned something that I didn't agree to.
Obviously, if you take a picture of something that's dirty, it's going to look dirty.
I went to pay my rent, and he was outside, ripped his shirt off, and did a striptease for the money.
Plaintiff Sandra Barringer claims her ex was looking for revenge when he got out of jail and took it out on her car. She's suing for $500. Defendant Joseph Willis says the plaintiff destroyed all of his clothes and jewelry, so he's countersuing for $5,000.
Thank you. This is case 109 on the docket, Barringer versus Willis.
Okay, thank you. What we have here is the plaintiff, Ms. Barringer.
Yes.
And you are suing your ex-boyfriend, Mr. Willis, for $500 for car damage. And Mr. Willis, you are suing the plaintiff in a countersuit for $5,000. Why don't we start with you?
Me and Mr. Willis met at church.
You met at church?
Yes.
How'd that go?
It was wonderful. He's a sexy man.
Are we looking at the same man?
You're wrong, Jerry.
Okay, no, okay. So you're in church and you see a sexy man.
I seen him a couple times.
I'm not sure that should be your focus while you're in church, but okay. So you're sitting there, you see him, and...
Well, we had run into each other a couple times before we
Okay.
actually got together. I pursued him.
And you moved in together, or?
We moved in together.
So you're now living together, and you said, what happened?
We got into an altercation. We had been drinking, and then we got into an altercation.
Yeah.
He wanted to leave. I didn't want him to leave. So he wouldn't get no DUI because we had been drinking.
So you were concerned that you didn't want him driving while
he been drinking.
Well, that was good.
But we got into a fight, and he went to jail.
Oh,
I didn't want him to really go to jail. I didn't want nothing to happen to him because I love him, and he's sexy.
Are you drinking now?
For real, Jerry? You don't play me like that? It's cool.
So he spends a night in jail.
When he got out, we started back talking to one another.
Yeah.
We were spending time with each other. A couple weeks later, he remembered that he was mad, and he busted out my car windows.
He remembered that he was angry.
He remembered he was mad. So when he remembered that he was mad...
Oh, for having spent a night in jail.
Right.
And then what happened?
He busted out my car windows.
He busted out your car windows?
Yes. I got a Pontiac G6.
Oh, there...
There you go.
Oh, I see. What were you doing?
Jerry, I don't owe her anything, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because what she failed to mention is, when I went to jail, she destroyed all my entire wardrobe. She sold all my jewelry. As a matter of fact, Jerry, I got some pictures too.
You guys have an altercation. You wind up spending a night in jail, and you're saying while you spent the night in jail, she cut up your clothing?
That's exactly what I'm saying. See, Jerry, look, the whole thing started when one of her family members saw me another female. No, I ain't perfect, Jerry. You know what I'm saying?
No, I had you picked out as perfect.
I know you did. I ain't proud of that, though, Jerry. I really ain't.
So you were with another woman?
So a few more...
So of course she got angry.
Now, she gonna tell you that she didn't want me to get in my car because I had been drinking, and that might have been part of it, but it wasn't all of it. The police was called by a neighbor, like she said, all that part is true, Jerry. So then, but when the police came, she flipped on me because before they came, we had sit down and had talked about the situation, and I thought everything had calmed down. I said, well, let me go on outside real quick and give me some air, right? And that's when I was addressed in the hallway with the police officers or whatever, right? Yeah. As soon as they came, I didn't know who she was no more. And while I was arrested, she destroyed all my stuff. And that's why I'm suing her today for $5,000.
She destroyed...
He ain't got $5,000 worth of clothes.
John,
Crazy.
Jerry, listen. The stuff she destroyed, it took me like 5 years to accumulate.
Oh, these are your... Were these taken during your sexy years?
For real? You gonna keep playing me like that, Jerry? It's cool.
Now, you admit that are you admitting that you cut up some of his clothing?
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate the honesty. So she did she was angry and she cut up your... No one said she should have done that, but she was angry and she cut up your clothing.
Jerry,
you were angry and you smashed the windows of her car.
Jerry, I worked very, very hard for that stuff.
She probably worked very hard to get a car.
I did.
With windows that weren't smashed.
That's probably true, Jerry.
You did smash the windows.
I said I don't owe her anything. That's
Yeah,
what
but you did smash the windows.
I'm stating I don't owe her nothing because she owed me.
I'm not asking you that. You smashed the windows.
Before I answer that question, can I submit my evidence?
You could submit evidence, but I'm asking you this question.
I'll take the evidence.
You smashed the windows.
Yes, he
I got
did.
in my feelings.
When he smashed my window,
Well, look at me. You're under oath. Seriously, okay?
I know that, Jerry.
You smashed the windows, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And you were cheating on her.
Okay, I probably
Why
was.
did you think she wasn't going to get angry?
I didn't think that.
Yeah. And if you want to be with another woman, why don't you bring your clothing over to the other woman's place?
I ain't had time to do all
because
that.
he was doing too much lying.
Hey, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Because he was doing too much lying, that's why.
Okay.
He was
That
playing
makes
both of
sense.
us.
So here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to do on a serious note. There is, and I see these receipts, by the way, for clothing. It's not legal proof of any. You bought clothing, and she admits that she cut it up. There's no way for me to be able, you know, here, $16, $28, $23. I'm looking at your receipts you handed me.
Look at all of them.
Here's $19.99.
No, you ain't listening. You ain't. Come on, Jerry. Quit playing, man. Quit playing, Jerry. Don't play, man. Jerry.
So you had clothing she ripped up.
A whole lot.
But here's the deal. There's so many bigger issues for both of you than this. You know, the advice would be, unless you get control of your temper, you know, you have to decide whether you're going to put up with this. And you have to decide whether you're going to put up with her temper. She's going to get angry when you do things like that. That's the truth. So you destroyed the windows of her car. You destroyed much of his clothing. There's no way for me to give an estimate of the clothing. So I'm going to call it even, and I'm going to dismiss both your cases.
What?
I proved my case, but I didn't prove my case. I guess since both of us have charges against each other, he just dismissed the both.
I'm not just straightening my hand with her. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to do that. We're gonna be all right. We'll be all right.
Plaintiff Justin Ware says he was trying to help out a tenant, but she skipped out on the rent and left the house destroyed. Defendant Corinna Villanueva claims she left the house spotless and tried to pay the rent,
Please raise
but
your
the
right hand.
plaintiff wouldn't
Swear
accept
that
it.
the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Case number 5 on the docket, Ware versus Villanueva.
The plaintiff, Mr. Ware, you are suing the defendant, Ms. Villanueva, in the amount of $3,187 for unpaid rent and damages on a rented property.
That's correct.
What's your story?
Several years back, her witness is Tammy. Tammy and her husband were renting a 2-story condominium from me in Stockton, California.
Yes.
Ms. Krebel has some medical issues that makes it difficult for her to go up and down the stairs. At one point, while they were tenants of mine, I had another property open up, which is a single-story home. Ms. Krebel and her husband expressed an interest in switching their lease from the 2-story condo to the single-family home, which
Yes.
is only a single-story. I allowed them to do that. They pointed out to me when I approved that they actually had somebody they could refer me to rent the 2-story condo that they were renting from me.
And so we have the
We have Ms.
defendant.
Villanueva.
All right, so she moves into your property.
That's correct,
Got it.
yes. We signed a 3-year lease in starting March 1st, 2016, which a copy of which I have here.
Yes.
It expires on February 28th of 2019. She also paid a $2,000 deposit upon moving in, $1,500 security deposit, plus an additional $500 because she had a small dog. She lived there approximately 2.5 years before breaking the lease. The 2.5 years that she lived there, she was actually a model tenant.
How did she break the lease?
She vacated the property prior to the 3-year point.
Did you agree that she could leave the property?
I did say I would not charge her a penalty for vacating, yes, but I would hold her responsible for any lost rent.
So you're saying she owes rent through what date?
She lived there through October 31st, did not pay October's rent, and then the property was vacant for 10 days in November before the new tenant was able to move in.
Okay, so you're saying she's owed for October rent and the first 10 days in November where she had already left and you didn't yet have a new tenant.
That's correct.
And the condition that you were going to let her move and break the lease was that she wouldn't move until you found a new tenant.
So I do have here also where he asked me to be out by the 1st, and I was. And it's there in his text message as well.
By the 1st of what?
The 1st of November.
If you're saying she's going to be responsible for the time she vacates the property that you don't have a new tenant, then you can't tell her to get out on November 1st when you don't have a new tenant until November 10th. That makes no sense.
I had a tenant who was interested in moving on November 1st. However, due to the damage left by Miss Villanueva, she could not move in because of the repair work that needed to be done.
Well, that's a separate issue, but you can't charge her then for November when you're telling her she has to be out by November 1st. If you've got damage issues, that's separate for whenever she moved out. So as far as the rent is concerned, I'm only going to hold her responsible for October.
I did try to pay him the rent after we had talked about everything, and I have evidence here that I did try to send him partial payment, and he sent it right back to me because he wanted something in writing, but I wasn't agreeing to all the charges, so I wasn't going to sign something that I didn't agree to. But I did try to start to pay the rent back, and I told him I would have the rest of the rent when my taxes came in.
He's entitled to send it back because he's entitled to say, you know what, I'm tired of these partial payments. From now on, I want the full payment.
Okay.
Okay. Which brings us then to the idea that she's admittedly late with the payments. And she waits until, what, tax time or until...
February, yes.
Yeah.
February 1st, she tried to pay it
And
partially.
that is something that you, for the time she was in that apartment, when did it start?
March 1st of 2016.
So for 2.5 years, you were putting up with her paying late.
Correct, yes.
All right. Because once you've set the precedent that I'm going to accept your rent late, when the taxes come in, you pay me, I'm fine with it, she's entitled to believe that that's okay with you then, and you can't then suddenly come back and say, I'm going to fine you now. So the penalty part, I'm going to reject. You are entitled for the rent that is owed for the time she was there. Now let's get to the issue of the damages.
Okay.
You're saying certain things were damaged.
That's correct.
Now, for living there 2.5 years, there is what legally is referred to normal wear and tear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is it that you think is major that she owes damages for?
Upon her move out, she asked for a list of what she could take care of that might allow her to get some of her security deposit back. I emailed her this list. She did not sign it. She did not set foot in the condo to take care of any of those items.
That's wrong. I did have people come in and clean, and that's my witness. Her and the cleaning lady went in and cleaned. He wants me to pay for paint and nails and things that were there when I moved in because it wasn't clean when I moved in. The carpet was already coming up when I moved in. It wasn't cleaned. Place wasn't painted. Nothing was done.
Did you have a walkthrough prior to the time you moved in?
No.
There was
We
no
did
walkthrough?
not, because the issue was Miss Krebel and her husband and Miss Villanueva both were in a hurry to move. When the single-family property became available and I got the keys back and I let them know, I told them that it would take a few days to get the carpets done, to do what I needed to do, and they both said, no, don't worry about it. We will take the properties as is, and we would like to get the keys today.
Okay.
They took them as was.
Okay.
Because Miss Villanueva is Miss Krebel's sister-in-law, I did not assume that this was going to be a problem. Unfortunately, that is my mistake as a landlord that, I learned my lesson that even with family members, they're still trying to...
Okay. He's saying he offered to fix the place up.
No.
What are you saying?
My name is Tamitha Franklin.
Yes.
I lived in the condo. She is my sister-in-law.
Got it.
When we were to move, because I had a 3-year lease at the condo, and
Okay.
so I found somebody to take over my lease, and I moved.
Okay, the only question I'm interested in now, though, is the issue of why there wasn't a walkthrough so you could
Right.
see what you were saying as is to.
Right.
Because how do I know
Right,
who's
my-
responsible for the damage if he's saying you didn't bother to walk through because you were in a hurry? So now I don't know when this stuff got messed up.
The reason that there was not a walkthrough is because in order for this to work for him, I needed to pay rent on the new place, and she had to be able to pay rent on the old place at the same time.
How am I supposed to determine who caused some of the damage? Some of it you probably caused simply because you were there for 2.5 years. The carpet was a major concern, that it was
yes.
just...
It looks like she didn't vacuum once in the 2.5 years she lived there.
I'm not going to award money because a place
He's
is dirty.
wrong for that too because he knows we
I
actually
want
got
to
a
know if
carpet
the carpet
cleaner.
was ruined beyond
Your Honor, I
repair.
have several photos of the
Yeah,
condo,
I'd like to see
what
it.
they look like.
That was before we cleaned. That was before we
Okay,
cleaned.
this
We have
was
photos
before you
after.
cleaned.
Yes, sir.
I was standing there when he took those photos cleaning.
That was where the washer and dryer was, so all that was cleaned out.
It was not. New tenant came in there and had to get her own cleaning lady.
Obviously, if you take a picture of something that's dirty, it's going to look dirty.
Right.
But dirt can be cleaned up. What I'm looking at is property that is, in a sense, destroyed. I don't see, at least in the pictures you gave me, that the carpet is beyond repair. It needs to be shampooed.
Those are pet stains in the downstairs. She admitted her dog made stains and messes in the carpet. You can't get pet stains out of a carpet. My carpet cleaner, who I've used for over a decade, would not clean that
Was
carpeting.
she allowed to have a dog in the apartment?
She had a $500 deposit towards that, yes.
Dogs sometimes go.
But she's responsible for that damage. I even gave her the deposit back. She struggled with the rent so much that I gave her pet deposit back just to try and help her out.
I didn't even ask for my deposit back. He had
Why didn't you pay the rent on time?
I couldn't afford it. And so that's when I said, you know what, I can't afford this. I did try up until that point, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Okay, this is what I find. October's rent, $1,200. I'm not going to let you get a late fee for it because you established the precedent where she was always paying late and you accepted it. The November's rent, no, because that's on you. You told her to get out on the 1st, and a reasonable person, if told by the landlord, I got to be out on the 1st, is going to get out, and then it's going to be very difficult to go back to her and say, hey, I want the money for the time that I kicked you out. You're entitled to the October rent, which is $1,200. You're entitled to $500 for the pet to get that deposit back. So that makes $1,700. And you are entitled to $100 on the screen door, $100 for the damage to the windowsill, and another $100 for the padlock. You're holding on to a security deposit, which is $1,500.
For the carpeting, the painting, the backyard. I mean, I had to pay to haul her personal items out of there.
If someone moves out, you clean up the property afterwards. You've got
And
a
that comes
security.
out of her deposit.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm telling you what my decision is. You get $2,000. Of the $2,000, you have a $1,500 security deposit that takes care of $1,500 of it. So I find for the plaintiff in the sum of $500 in addition to you keeping the $1,500 security deposit.
I spent 10 days there cleaning the place out and I get $500. Doesn't make any sense.
He wanted me to redo his condo, and I wasn't going to do that.
It wasn't redone when we moved in. Why should she have to do it now? Yeah. I went to pay my rent, and he was outside, ripped his shirt off, and did a striptease for the money.
Thanks for watching. Now please approach the bench. The way I look at it, you have two options here. Option A, watch more Judge Jerry. Option B, watch more Jerry Springer. The choice is yours. Now get out of my courtroom. You have more clips to watch. And don't forget to subscribe.